It's amazing how fast life can change with just a single moment. One photo shoot, one set of flashing cameras, one pair of faces pressed a little too close together, and suddenly everything Micah Plath thought he could balance came crashing down. It wasn't a fight that tore his relationship apart. It wasn't some scandalous secret whispered behind closed doors. It was an image, one carefully staged moment meant to sell chemistry that ended up costing him something far more personal than any contract or paycheck. If you followed Micah's journey on Welcome to Plathville, you know exactly how far he's come. From the quiet, rule-heavy life on the Plath family farm to the bright, intoxicating promise of Los Angeles, he has been chasing freedom with everything in him. Modeling became his ticket out, his way of rewriting the story his parents, Kim and Barry, once tried to control. And in so many ways it worked. He built a career, a new circle, and the kind of confidence he never would have found back in Cairo, Georgia. But along with that new life came the kind of pressure and temptation no one in the Plath family was ever prepared for. That fateful photo shoot is what sealed it. The lights were blinding, the cameras clicking nonstop, and there was Micah, shirtless, sculpted, positioned inches away from a stunning co-star. It was the kind of staged intimacy the modeling world thrives on. For the crew, it was just another day at work. For the fans who saw those pictures online, it looked like a real romance unfolding before their eyes. And for Veronica, Micah's girlfriend at the time, it was the beginning of the end. Hi friends, I'm Sophie, and welcome back to Reality Scandals Daily. Today we're going to peel back the layers of this story, the tension between career and love, the way an image can feel more truthful than words, and why one set of photographs left Veronica in tears and Micah standing alone. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the latest breakdowns of your favorite reality TV dramas. And I want to hear from you. Would you be able to forgive a partner if the whole world thought their on-camera chemistry was real? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this one is messy. Micah quote. S story makes sense only when you remember where he came from. For years, the Plath kids lived under the watchful eyes of Kim and Barry, their parents who kept them isolated on the farm in rural Georgia. No TV, no sugar, no outside influence. It was a world designed to be simple, controlled, and set apart. On the surface, it looked like peace, but for kids growing up with curiosity and ambition, it was suffocating. And when the cracks started to show, they split the family wide open. Ethan, the oldest son, was the first to make a bold stand. His marriage to Olivia Plath didn't just challenge Kim and Barry's rules, it exposed the tension that had always been there. Olivia wanted freedom and independence. She wanted to experience the world without constant judgment. That conflict with Ethan's parents was so intense, it practically defined the early seasons of Welcome to Plathville. Then came Mariah, the creative, emotional daughter who chased music and self-expression. Her bright hair, her music videos, her heartbreaks, they were all part of her pushing back against the life she was raised in. Each child, in their own way, carved out a different path. Micah's rebellion looked different. Instead of fighting his parents head-on, he left quietly, determined to prove himself in the one place no one in his family had ever imagined. Los Angeles modeling became his weapon, his way of rewriting the narrative. For someone who had grown up being told what he couldn't do, every shirtless pose, every smoldering look into the camera was an act of defiance. He wasn't just making money, he was making a statement. The LA lifestyle fit him quickly. He built a circle of friends who celebrated his independence. He got into fitness, socializing, late nights, fast opportunities. It was the polar opposite of the rigid structure Kim and Barry once enforced. But with that new world came challenges his family never prepared him for. While modeling opened doors, it also demanded vulnerability. The intimacy on set wasn't real, but it was convincing. And for someone like Micah, who had only just begun to explore relationships outside his sheltered upbringing, that blurred line was more dangerous than he realized. This is where Veronica entered the picture. While Micah was carving out a career that put his body and image at the center of attention, Veronica became his anchor. She wasn't just a girlfriend, she was a reminder of stability, someone who believed in him beyond the magazine covers and Instagram posts. In a way, she represented the balance he was desperate to hold on to. She supported his dream, even when she admitted she didn't fully understand the world he was stepping into. That kind of support is rare, especially for someone still trying to heal from a childhood marked by control and silence. But as much as Veronica stood by him, the tension was always there. The Plath children grew up in a home where affection was carefully guarded, where physical closeness was modest and reserved. Now here was Micah, on sets where strangers leaned into him, where closeness was demanded, where chemistry wasn't just suggested, it was staged. Veronica tried to tell herself it was just part of his job, but when those photos landed online, looking more like a romance than an assignment, her support began to crack. Micah's journey into modeling wasn't just about breaking free from Kim and Barry's rules. It was about redefining himself in ways that his siblings, Ethan, Olivia, and Mariah, had also struggled to do. But unlike them, his rebellion didn't come through words or music, it came through images. And in the end, those same images that helped him escape his past became the very thing that put his relationship with Veronica on the line. Every career has a turning point. And for Micah Plath, it wasn't a runway or a contract, it was a photo shoot. On the surface, it looked like just another day in the modeling world. But for Micah, for Veronica, and for everyone watching Welcome to Plathville, it became the moment that defined his relationship. The cameras were set, the studio lights burned hot, and the photographer had a clear vision: sell intimacy. Micah was shirtless, toned from months of work in the gym, standing inches away from a co-star chosen for her beauty and energy. They didn't know each other well, they didn't have history, but the goal of the day was to create the illusion of connection, to make every viewer believe they were witnessing sparks fly. And that's exactly what happened. Shot after shot, Micah leaned in closer, their foreheads brushed, their bodies angled as if they were locked in a private moment. A hand grazed an arm, a smile lingered too long. On set, the crew clapped and nodded. This was exactly the kind of chemistry that sells. But when those images hit the wider world, it was more than just good photography. To fans scrolling on Instagram, it looked like a love story caught mid-bloom. That's the power of pictures. A single frame can make a staged moment look like the truest thing in the world. And when the photos started circulating, the comments section lit up instantly. People tagged friends, speculated about whether Micah had found a new partner, and praised how natural the pair looked together. Words like couple goals and relationship vibes filled the posts. For Micah, this was proof that he had nailed the assignment. For Veronica, it was something else entirely. From her perspective, these weren't just professional shots. They were evidence that her boyfriend's work blurred the line between performance and reality. She had stood by him as he embraced the modeling world, telling herself it was just a job. But now, those images were public. Everyone could see them. And the intimacy in those photos wasn't happening in private, it was being celebrated by strangers who didn't even know the full story. Micah tried to explain. He insisted that what happened on set meant nothing beyond the paycheck. He told Veronica that it was the same as an actor playing a role, that the chemistry was manufactured, not genuine. But here's the problem: when a picture looks real, no amount of explanation can erase the feeling it leaves behind. And these pictures didn't just look convincing, they looked undeniable. Fans weren't shy about sharing their opinions. Some defended Micah, arguing that modeling requires vulnerability, that every successful photo shoot demands a level of intimacy. Others sided with Veronica, saying they could never accept their partner being that close to someone else, no matter the circumstances. The debate spilled into online forums, Reddit threads, and reality TV commentary pages. Social media had turned one day of work into a national conversation about loyalty, trust, and the price of ambition. For Veronica, though, it wasn't about strangers online, it was about the way she felt seeing her boyfriend in those poses. She had invested in his dream, supported his leap into LA, and cheered him on as he broke free from his parents' control. But no amount of understanding could erase the sting of those images. In her words, it wasn't jealousy, it was betrayal. And betrayal doesn't always come in the form of cheating. Sometimes it's just the feeling that your partner has given away something that was supposed to be yours alone. Micah didn't see it the same way. To him, modeling was survival. It was his chance to prove he could thrive outside of the Plath family's restrictions. Every contract, every shoot, every glowing comment online was proof that he was building something real for himself. To walk away from that would feel like stepping back into the cage he'd worked so hard to escape. And so the photo shoot became a crossroads. To outsiders, it was glamorous, exciting, even romantic. To Veronica, it was a breaking point. To Micah, it was just part of the job. That clash of perspectives is what made it so powerful. Because sometimes the truth isn't in what happened, it's in how it looked. And for Veronica, what it looked like was enough to change everything. Every story has a climax, and for Micah and Veronica, it wasn't a screaming fight or a dramatic scandal splashed across headlines. It was something quieter, but so much heavier. A breaking point. When Veronica first saw those photos, she tried to swallow the hurt. She told herself it was modeling, that Micah was just doing his job. She repeated his words in her head, "It's just work, it doesn't mean anything." But the truth was that it did mean something to her, because it wasn't about another woman, and it wasn't about jealousy, it was about trust. Veronica had placed her trust in Micah, not just as a boyfriend, but as a partner in a relationship that was supposed to grow stronger despite the pressure of LA, cameras, and the modeling world. She had believed him when he said he wanted something real with her, something lasting. Yet here she was, blindsided, not by his actions in private, but by images the whole world could see. For her, that wasn't just uncomfortable, it was betrayal. She admitted it outright on Welcome to Plathville. She couldn't handle it. She couldn't sit at home, scroll through Instagram, and see her boyfriend's arms wrapped around someone else while fans cheered on the chemistry. The pain wasn't rooted in jealousy of another woman, it was rooted in the realization that Micah's career required him to constantly test the boundaries of intimacy. To Veronica, that blurred line between work and reality wasn't something she could accept. This was the moment where her voice cracked, where her honesty cut through the noise of speculation. She wasn't accusing Micah of being unfaithful. She wasn't even angry. She was heartbroken. She explained that the relationship, as it stood, wasn't sustainable for her. That it wasn't about one shoot, or one model, or one viral Instagram post. It was about the pattern she saw forming, the future she couldn't picture herself surviving in. And here's where the heartbreak deepens. Veronica wasn't just losing Micah, she was losing the version of herself that believed she could endure this. She realized on camera and in front of millions that she wasn't built for this world of blurred lines and staged intimacy. Her breaking point wasn't explosive, it was resigned. A quiet acknowledgement that sometimes love isn't enough when two people live in different realities. If you zoom out, you can see a familiar pattern across the Plath family. Lifestyle clashes have wrecked more than one relationship. Olivia, Ethan's wife, faced her own breaking point again and again. She loved Ethan, but she couldn't live under the shadow of Kim and Barry's controlling rules, nor could she reconcile Ethan's small-town habits with her own ambitions and worldview. Their marriage became a cycle of pushing, pulling, and breaking down, all because they couldn't bridge the gap between two ways of life. Micah, too, has brought partners into the spotlight, only to find that the weight of her past and the intensity of her family's scrutiny made it nearly impossible to sustain something healthy. The Plath story isn't just about parents and children, it's about every person who's ever tried to love a Plath, and the immense pressure that comes with it. Veronica's breaking point fits right into that legacy. Just like Olivia, she was forced to ask herself, can I really do this? Can I really build a future with someone whose lifestyle feels incompatible with mine? Her answer, painfully, was no. And for Micah, this wasn't just about losing a girlfriend, it was about realizing that his career choices had consequences far beyond his personal ambition. His rebellion against his upbringing had led him to freedom, but that freedom came with costs he hadn't anticipated. Costs like losing someone who had been a steady, supportive presence in his life. What makes Veronica's breaking point so unforgettable is that it was so raw, so relatable. Every viewer watching could see the honesty in her eyes, hear the finality in her words. She wasn't villainizing Micah, she wasn't exaggerating, she was simply saying the quiet part out loud, this is too much for me. I can't do this anymore, and that's what made it sting even more. And that's what made it sting even more. Because in that moment, she wasn't just walking away from Micah. She was walking away from a dream they had built together. And Micah, for all his newfound independence, was left standing alone in the middle of his new life, realizing just how much it had cost him. Sometimes the end of a relationship isn't loud. It isn't a screaming match in a restaurant or an ugly scene caught on camera. Sometimes it's quiet, so quiet that you only realize it's over when you look around and feel the absence. For Micah and Veronica, that's exactly how their breakup unfolded. There wasn't one explosive moment that shattered everything, no final fight that left them both storming away. Instead, it was a slow unraveling, a series of silences, texts that took longer to answer, phone calls that felt heavier than before, dinners that ended without laughter, the spark that had once been so obvious dimmed until it was impossible to ignore. Micah, ever the optimist, tried to frame it as part of the journey. He told himself and the cameras that pursuing his dreams would come with sacrifices. He believed that building his modeling career in Los Angeles was his shot at a life beyond the strict confines of Cairo, Georgia. And if Veronica couldn't walk that path with him, maybe that was just the price of independence. In his mind, this was what growth looked like. You let go of what holds you back, even if it hurts. Veronica saw it differently. For her, the relationship had become a constant test of endurance. Every photo shoot, every flirty pose, every comment online asking if Micah was really single chipped away at her sense of security. She didn't want to become resentful. She didn't want to cling tighter and tighter until she lost herself in the process. So she made the choice that so many women in her position eventually have to make. She chose herself on camera. Her voice was calm, but the sadness was unmistakable. She said she couldn't handle the uncertainty, couldn't live in a relationship where her partner's career required him to blur boundaries she considered sacred. To her, it wasn't about ultimatums, it was about survival. Staying would mean compromising her peace of mind, and that wasn't a future she was willing to accept. And so, just like that, the love story fizzled into quiet distance. Micah went back to chasing his modeling contracts, posting new content, and brushing off the whispers of heartbreak. Veronica stepped away, preserving her dignity and her sanity. There was no big blowout scene for the cameras, no screaming match to replay in endless reruns. Instead, what fans got was something far more relatable, the slow, painful realization that sometimes even good relationships aren't built to last. What makes this breakup hit so hard is that it wasn't about a lack of love, it was about limits. Micah's limit was staying small, staying rooted in a world that never felt like his. Veronica's limit was compromising on trust and intimacy. Neither one was wrong, but they were undeniably incompatible. Fans reacted with a mix of heartbreak and debate. Some sided with Micah, admiring his determination to chase his dreams, no matter the cost. Others defended Veronica, applauding her strength to walk away instead of staying in a situation that made her feel unseen. Online threads lit up with questions. Would you stay with someone whose career demanded that level of intimacy with strangers? Would you sacrifice your peace of mind for love? And that's where I want to bring you, the viewers, into this conversation. Because this isn't just Micah and Veronica's story, it's a universal dilemma. How far should you bend for someone you love? At what point does compromise turn into self-betrayal? And the hardest question of all, should career ambition outweigh relationship boundaries? For Micah, the answer was clear. His career had to come first. For Veronica, the answer was just as clear. Her self-preservation had to come first. And that's why, despite their affection for each other, their story ended not with fireworks, but with silence. It's a sobering reminder that not every love story has to end in flames for it to leave scars. Sometimes the quietest endings are the ones that hurt the most. And for Micah and Veronica, the quiet breakup became the loudest chapter in their journey because it revealed exactly who they were and what they valued most. Micah's journey is more than just a love story gone wrong. It's a mirror of what we've seen play out again and again on Welcome to Plathville. Every Plath child who's broken away from Kim and Barry's world has paid a price. Ethan fought for freedom and nearly lost his marriage. Maria chased independence and found herself entangled in heartbreak. And now Micah, once the golden boy of Cairo, has discovered that even personal victories in the big city come with personal losses. The modeling industry itself plays the role of both savior and villain in this story. For Micah, it represents everything he longed for: freedom, validation, and the chance to prove he's more than just the product of a conservative household. But for Veronica, that same industry became the wedge that pushed her away. What lifted Micah up is the very thing that broke them apart. That's the paradox: opportunity and antagonist rolled into one, and when you zoom out, you can see the bigger picture. The Plath kids aren't just escaping a strict household, they're learning, often painfully, what it costs to build a life outside of it. The freedom they fought for is real, but it's not free. Every boundary pushed, every new venture explored, comes with ripple effects on partners, on family ties, and on their own sense of self. For me, watching this unfold, it's impossible not to feel empathy for both Micah and Veronica. He was chasing a dream he'd earned through grit and rebellion. She was protecting her heart and her peace of mind. Neither one is wrong, but together they couldn't survive the collision of those truths, and that's what makes their story resonate. Because whether you're on Team Micah or Team Veronica, you're left asking the same question: how much should you give up for love, and how much should you hold back to protect yourself? I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Micah made the right choice putting his career first, or do you think Veronica was right to walk away? Drop your opinions in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one. And if you're new here, this is Sophie with channel name. Make sure you hit subscribe, tap that notification bell, and share this video with anyone who loves digging deep into Welcome to Plathville drama, because trust me, the story isn't over yet.